I found out that my husband is still talking and flirting with his ex, and worst thing is they are making fun of me for gaining weight after a miscarriage. So I did this. My husband, 45-year-old male, and I, 36-year-old female, met about 6 years ago. We have been married for 1 year. When we met, I was very fit and athletic. I started gaining weight, however, after suffering 2 miscarriages and the loss of my mother to cancer. I was very depressed and barely got out of bed if not to go to work. I stopped exercising and instead started eating junk food. I gained 40 pounds in 2 years, 2019 to 2020. During this time, my husband, then fiancé, was very supportive and loving. I felt guilty and tried to give him an out several times, but instead, he proposed and we got married last summer. Since our marriage, I have been feeling much better and it showed. I have lost around 20 pounds so far and I gained back my muscles and abs. He was so happy to see me feeling better. On his computer, however, it was totally a different story. He was talking, almost under our entire relationship, to his ex-wife about me. His ex-wife, female 46, left him about 7 to 8 years ago for her colleague. The relationship didn't work, however, and she tried to get back together with my husband. He has already met me, but they stayed friends, mostly via chat and texting since she lives 12 hours away. My husband was complaining about everything about me. My job, my depression, my cooking, but mostly about my weight. He was telling her how disgusting I was to him, how he even found it hard to share the same bed since I snored like a dog. He sent her pictures of me while sleeping, sometimes in underwear, with comments about my belly, double chin, back, boobs, etc. She found these pictures extremely amusing and she came up with the name White Whale. They both found it hilarious, and now this is what they refer to me as. They don't flirt exactly or talk about being together or starting an affair, but they do say that they miss each other and they reminisce about the time they were married. She's more flirtatious and he really enjoys it. Whatever he's telling her isn't what I have experienced with him. I don't disgust him. He tells me that he loves me all the time. We have great and passionate sex, and the way he touches and makes love to me is so great. He must be a really good actor if he was in reality disgusted by me. And he hates the few times we have to sleep apart. He's lying and I don't know why he's doing it. He's lying to one of us and I'm not sure if I want to know who he's lying to and why. I decided to get out of this marriage and leave this behind me. Right now I'm acting like everything is normal, but I have started looking for a new job in another city and a place to rent. I also started with birth control pills in case something happens between us, and I have talked to a lawyer to prepare for the divorce and start the process once I'm gone. One thing I'm not going to do is fall back into depression and weight gain. I will not allow it. What a waste of love he has been. Edit. I can't believe I need to explain this about the birth control pills. Very simple explanation. Up until I went through his messenger, I loved and trusted this guy. We had a great sex life and we were trying to conceive. When I read what he has written and the way he took pictures of me sleeping, something happened inside of me, like I don't know this person in front of me anymore. I can't read his face and I don't trust him. I don't know how long I'm going to need to stay under the same roof as him. I don't know what his reaction would be if I refused him for a long period of time with no real excuse. I don't know what else he's capable of besides taking pictures of sleeping people. I don't know if I, in a moment of weakness, succumb to lust, or if he for a moment could fool me that he actually loved me. For all these reasons and many darker scenarios I have played in my head, I'm taking extra precautions. Anyone with an IQ of a chicken could understand that, or so I hope. Thank you everyone for the support. I will update you when I know more about where I'm headed. Update. Hi again. I don't know how to make an update, but my original post is in my profile. But I'm feeling happy, so happy for the first time in weeks, and I wanted to share that with you since many of you supported me and requested an update. I thought it would be the decent thing to do. So here comes nothing. I didn't pry or spy on my husband. I used his MacBook to do some work and he had forgotten to log out from Facebook and Messenger. He has never given me any reason to spy on him. After I found out, however, I would occasionally check his phone, maybe hoping that it was all a bad joke. He continued complaining anyhow, and now he was telling her I was being distant and cold in the manner, and that he was tired of me. He even lied and told her I was gaining even more weight even though I'm not. He told her we weren't having sex because he couldn't find it under the rolls of fat, a joke that she highly appreciated. I didn't spy after that. I got the confirmation I needed. In the meantime, he acted like the worried husband with me, concerned about me and asking if I was going through a new depression. He told me he loved me and that he was there for me. He did everything like previous times I had dips. Called from work, came home with takeouts from my favorite restaurants, did all the cleaning and washing around the house, baked fresh bread in the mornings, flowers, and chocolate, and asked me if I wanted to go for nighttime drives, walks, because he used to take me for a drive the nights I was feeling very down and depressed. How can anyone be so two-faced? I have my big sister who lives in another city. I told her that I was leaving my husband and that I was looking for jobs in her city. My sister is married and she lives with her husband and daughter in a big house. She offered me one of her spare bedrooms. I got a few job interviews and one of them turned into an offer. It's not exactly my field of work and it came with a significant decrease in salary. But I thought about it and it's a good start until something more suitable comes up. I didn't want to prolong my stay with him any longer and a decrease in income is a good sacrifice, plus I'm going to have lower rent. And I'm selling my car since the new job is a walking distance from Sissy's house. No more worry about the crazy gas prices. My new job starts on October 1st. I'm working my notice period from my computer. In the 2 months between jobs, I'm just going to have fun and work on myself. I took my name off the lease, but I'm going to pay for 2 more months. I left him last Sunday. The night before, I prepared a very nice dinner, and I effed his brains out all night. It felt so good to hear him whispering how much he loved me and how lucky he was to have me. In the morning, I left the divorce papers and my attorney's number in the kitchen. When I got to my sister, I finally could tell her and the rest of my family about everything. I showed them all his conversations and even the pictures he's taken of me. They're all pissed at him. He has been calling and texting obsessively, but he doesn't know where I live now. Emailed, DM. He went to my parents, but they just shunned him at the door and advised him to let me go. Maybe he knows now because he's been asking to explain and apologize, etc. I don't care. All I've texted back is that if he wants to convey a message, he could do it through my lawyer. Now let's see what the community has to say. Opinion number 1 says, so his first wife cheats on him and leaves him for the affair partner. When that doesn't work, she comes back to him like he is her consolation prize, backup plan. He laps this attention up so much that he starts degrading a woman who loves, supports, and is faithful to him. Why is he still communicating with the woman who betrayed him? The dude is a combination of a snake and a simp. I hope he goes back to his ex-wife and she cheats on him again. Opinion number 2 says, well, I don't even know what else to say. I could never imagine making fun of my significant other behind their back, especially to an ex that left me. All I can say is you clearly deserve better. I'm glad you left and you weren't as petty as I would have been, lol. You took the high road and that's gonna hurt him even more. I also hope you eventually find someone who truly appreciates you. Opinion number 3 says, people do stupid shit for attention sometimes. The ex was someone who left him, and after time some folks can reconcile. My money is he didn't want to fully let go of the past and he wanted her approval. He probably said one negative thing about his wife and his ex was so pleased he committed to it. I've given up on trying to find logic in why people do some of the crazy shit they do. I think mostly people want attention or validation in situations like this. We can speculate all day. Maybe he was insecure in his relationship with Oop. His first wife left him. His second wife leaving would be an understandable fear. At the same time, he has a sort of second chance to have a sort of friendship with the first ex, who enjoyed hearing about the white whale he married. I'm guessing completely out of my ass, of course. We won't ever really know. If I were a betting lass, I'd wager his own insecurity and inability to let the past go caused a self-fulfilling prophecy. All dude had to do is be as loyal to his woman online like he appeared to be in person, and he failed. Dude should have gone to therapy instead. This story is really quite upsetting. How about you guys? What do you guys think about this whole situation, and what would your advice be for OP? Let's all discuss in the comments section below. I am not forgiving my husband for a mistake he did, and I'm not trusting him with our child. Am I overreacting? I, 24-year-old female, gave birth to my daughter 6 months ago, and it should have been the happiest moment in my life. When my daughter was born, her skin was very dark and looked like she could have 2 biological parents who were of African descent. My husband, Jim, fake name, was furious and accused me of cheating and left right then and there. He told everyone on both sides of the family what happened, made posts on social media, and wanted a divorce. His family and a lot of our friends all called to say how upset they were at me and called me really nasty names. My mother was by my side the entire time, and I kept professing my innocence. Jim refused to pick me up from the hospital, threw my stuff out on the lawn, and changed the locks, so I had to stay with my parents. When my sister called to ask for the baby's stuff, Jim texted me pictures of the bare nursery room and said he got rid of everything. He even destroyed my art studio. I like to paint, and the art I made, and told me my work would be too awful to sell. I was distraught and tried to focus on my baby. Weeks went by and Jim refused to speak to me directly and has never once asked about our child. Eventually, He agreed to do paternity and he was 100% the father. No one could believe the results and it was done again. Jim's the dad. Around that same time, one of Jim's cousins did the ancestry thing and there was around 30% of African ancestry in the family. This combined with the test Jim's paternal great-grandmother admitted to having an affair around the time Jim's grandfather was born, and because he could pass she just assumed her husband was the father. Since then Jim has been reaching out and everyone has come to apologize, and while it did feel good to feel vindicated, the damage has been done. I can't unhear or unsee all the horrible things that were said and done, not just to me but to my child as well. Jim made some very racist remarks. Things that I thought he'd never say, and he did it so easily. Regardless of what our daughter looks like, I don't want her to be around that. What else will Jim and his family say or do the next time they get mad? How are they going to treat our daughter when she does something that upsets them? Jim has been begging for forgiveness. I said I needed time. He asked to see the baby and I let him, but I'm too afraid to physically hand her to him. He's repairing the nursery and keeps asking me what I would like, and I cry every time saying we already had what I liked and some of the items that we had can't be replaced. He asked me if I still loved him and I admitted that he showed me his worst self and I don't know if I could live with that image. I didn't mean to be hurtful, but it's how I feel. My sister suggested couples therapy, but I don't feel like I should have to work to fix something that I didn't break. I've never cheated and have been 100% innocent in all of this. The whole AITA for not wanting to give Jim a second chance. Update 1. I stepped away for a few hours and couldn't believe what I came back to. I am truly amazed by all the wonderful comments of support as well as the private messages. I also understand why some people may think this is fake, and all I can say is that you are free to believe what you want in this. I also see some questions and I think I should clarify a few things just in case your judgment may change. 1. All of this initially happened in February and I was already settled at my parents' house before the pandemic hit. 2. One of the reasons Jim wouldn't pick me up from the hospital was because I wouldn't admit to cheating or give him any details because there weren't any, which made him angrier. 3. Based on the pictures Jim sent me, he didn't take a sledgehammer to the crib or anything. He just took stuff down to either return it for the money or gave it away. While deeply hurtful, I wouldn't call it violent. But maybe it is. 4. Online he announced that I pushed out a dark-skinned baby and he was divorcing me. His family started with the racial comments and eventually he started doing it too, but only through my family. He refused to speak to me directly. 5. Once the truth came out, everything he and his family posts were all taken down, but I and a few friends still have the screenshots. Jim never wrote down his racial remarks. 6. While he didn't say any racist words, he did make comments about our daughter being a welfare princess and how I was going to be just another baby mama. 7. Just to clarify, Jim is white and I am at least half white. One of my parents is adopted, and with everything that's happened, they decided to do the ancestry thing too, and we should be getting the results any day now. Update 2. Thank you so much for all your words of encouragement a couple of months back, both in post and the DMs. A lot of things have happened since my initial post, and I just needed time to process it and be in a place where I can write about it on social media. So here it goes. First, my parent who was adopted did the ancestry divided by 23 thing, and it turns out that Jim wasn't the only one who had African ancestry. My parent had at least 45%, which means I have at least 20%. I am legally separated from my husband with primary custody, and I'm living with my parents until further notice. He still keeps apologizing and wants me to come back to the house. He even offered to leave so I could stay with our daughter, but I don't want to and really like having the support of my parents. My dad is retired, so he does a lot of the babysitting while my mother and I work remotely. I do go to the house every so often so Jim can see his daughter and for couple counseling via telecom. In one of the sessions, Jim confessed something really hurtful, and some of you guessed right, he cheated. It was while we were dating, before he proposed, and his treatment towards me was a projection. It was with an ex-girlfriend who had cheated on him, and he hooked up with her as an ego boost. He started to feel guilty but was too scared that I would walk away to ever confess. Jim also admitted that he was scared when I got pregnant, was very anxious about being a father, but just pretended to be excited because he didn't want to look like an. And my husband was so willing to believe that our daughter wasn't his because he thought he had an out. Now that he knows that our child is his and has spent time with her, Jim regrets everything and just wants his family back and is willing to spend the rest of his life making it up to us. This was all deeply hurtful, and I've cried about it more than once. Jim has been lying to me, and my ability to trust him hasn't improved at all. When the holidays came around, Jim's parents asked about seeing their grandchild, and I didn't want to. They told me that it was selfish of me to keep her away, and I reminded them of their past. They said that they've already apologized and tried to minimize the situation. They said that I can't be angry forever, and that I need to learn to forgive them. I'm so ashamed of ever loving and marrying into this family and wonder why I didn't see this before. I've decided to contact a lawyer and will be filing for divorce after my daughter's first birthday. My wife asked me to pay her almost $50,000 to have our child, and I'm not quite sure what to do. I have known and been dating my wife for 6 years, and we have been spiritually married for 2 years. We are not legally married, although at this point we are essentially common law. We are both high earners, both earning over $175K a year after tax. We purchased our home together and we have agreed to split the finances 50-50. We paid for our wedding, honeymoon, and everything 50-50, although I did pay for the cost of our rings and her engagement ring. Our mortgage payments were 50-50 and we comfortably own our home now. So much of our income goes to savings, investments, home improvements, and discretionary spending. Because of our incomes, we felt it would be best to keep our finances separate. We're both highly independent people and both very career-driven. It's part of the reason I'm so attracted to her. She's amazing at what she does, and I'm so proud to be able to introduce her as my wife and explain what she does. Unfortunately, our first 2 years of marriage were hampered by COVID and lockdowns. We would have loved to have traveled and saved up quite a bit in order to do this. A couple of months ago we had a talk and decided it might be a good time to have kids instead of continuously waiting for better or safer travel conditions. Without too serious discussion about it, we decided to stop using birth control and let things happen as they will. Yesterday I came home and my wife was on the phone. She seemed like she was in a hurry to end her conversation and tried to evade my question when I asked who she was talking to. It was her sister. They don't talk a lot, so that was a bit weird. She still works from home, so she continued to do some work. Then we had dinner and watched some news. Regular, pleasant evening. Then she says she wants to have a serious talk and asks me to make us some tea and meet her upstairs at her work desk. I make the tea, bring it up, and she starts talking about financials. Her workplace allows for maternity leave for up to a year, but only provides 50% of her salary for up to 6 months. The remaining 6 months are unpaid. She was very direct and said that while her insurance would cover the vast majority of hospital-related costs during pregnancy and childbirth, taking a 6-month break from work would cost her almost $50,000 since her pay would be cut in half. She is asking me to compensate her for that $50,000 in addition to agreeing to split any related but unexpected costs to pregnancy and childbirth. Her stance is that she is doing something for us to start a family, but it is not a true 50-50 split if she is expected to take a financial hit for it and I am not, given that our finances are separate. She had a printed list of expectations in terms of what she expected financially and listed some things that her insurance may not cover. I see the logic in that, but I am really very turned off by this because she is essentially asking me to pay her to have our child. She saw my hesitation and just doubled down. While her ideal is to return to work after 6 months, she says it's a real possibility that she may require more time off and decide, as things happen, to take up to a year off. So, she had another plan drafted for that. For the first 6 months, her work will give her 50% of her salary and I would compensate her for the rest. But for the next 6 months, since her work would not compensate her, and because this loss is something she is doing for the family, she is comfortable splitting the loss of her income and only asking me for 50% of her salary instead of 100% for the second 6-month period, and she will take the loss of 50% of her salary. The idea, I guess, is that both of us suffer half the loss of income for the second 6-month period. However, if she takes 7 to 11 months off, any months after the 6th can be prorated. She expressed that she anticipates and hopes to return to work in 6 months, but that she wants a contingency plan in the event that she requires a year off. She said that taking more than a year off is something she is very unlikely to do as it would put her job at risk, but that she's open to exploring a third plan with me if I feel that it's necessary. There are also detailed notes about how she wants to keep housework split, with plans to start saving for both childcare and additional housekeeper expenses for at least the first 4 years. I kid you not, it's a 16-page ring binder that she handed me with detailed notes, some explanations, and lists of expenses. But the immediate and essential element here is that she wants me to pay her $50,000, $100,000 to compensate for the loss of her salary for 6 to 12 months as a result of her having our child. I really do not know how to process this. My first thought is shock because, despite our salaries, $50K to $100K is a lot to demand. The idea of a payment plan to have a child is just gross, and many couples manage to do this without paying their wives to have children. But then, I suppose most couples are married legally and a loss to one person's income is a loss to everyone. So in our situation, it makes logical sense, but there's something so transactional about it that puts a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't fight it or argue, and she's basically allowing me to think about it, but says if having kids is something we're going to do, she wants to write up an agreement and go to a lawyer. What really hits me here is that she was talking to her sister on the same day she brings this up to me. Why on that day? On the same day, she mentions this to me. They do not talk often. I am partially excited and scared that the timing of this means that she is actually currently pregnant, and that my response to her will have real consequences if I disagree with her. She has previously had an abortion and only told me after the fact, because it was early into dating. I was shocked to learn that when I did, but supported her choice as it's her body, and at the time having kids would have been the wrong decision for us. Still, the fact that she makes decisions like that so independently has me incredibly cautious right now. I checked trash cans and such for a pregnancy test but didn't find anything. She also asked for tea instead of coffee, but maybe that is overthinking it because she likes both. I want to ask her if she's pregnant, but we both had busy days today, and I was processing and it didn't even occur to me on the day we first discussed this. Definitely a conversation to have, but I don't know whether that should influence my response here. TLDR, my wife and I both earn over $175K a year and we are considering having children. She is asking me to compensate her for 6 to 12 months as compensation for the time she will have to take off to have our child. I do not know whether she is pregnant. Now let's see what the community has to say. Opinion number 1 says, OP, I totally get why you feel this is weird and transactional, especially when you put it like she wants me to pay her to have our baby. But come on, bro. That's purely a matter of semantics, and you're smart enough to know that if you're pulling in that money, it's 100% just as true to say you are asking her to pay an opportunity cost by having your baby. Yes, this is all transactional and weird, but that's the arrangement you already have between you two. What she's pursuing is security and fairness. That's all. If you two have chosen to not marry and keep finances separate indefinitely, that's cool. That's your style. This is simply part of that. If you have a better suggestion that secures her financial stake in this arrangement, you should suggest that. As weird and transactional as it seems, this doesn't seem possible without getting some lawyers involved and putting some ink to agreements. Opinion number 2 says, I actually think this is a very pragmatic approach on her part. She's asking you to share the financial loss with her. She's making it clear that she wants an equal partner and an equal split in household chores. Just flip your perspective for a second, as I don't think you've properly thought of a woman's position in this situation because you're a man. Hop onto the Am I the Asshole sub and your eyes will be open to the heteronormative ideas that our society still pushes and which punish women. Often couples do not talk about their finances, household chores, responsibilities, etc. until there is a massive shit situation that needs to be talked about. I see posts on the relationship sub and Am I the Asshole sub all the time where the women are truly in a shit situation and are crying out for help. The husband still keeps his pay while pregnant woman takes a massive financial hit for being pregnant. Women bearing the brunt of child rearing and household responsibilities. Abusive relationships. Women always being forced to be the main caregiver, being burnt out. Husbands not lifting a finger to help around the house, etc. The list goes on. Pregnancy can essentially trap women into a really shitty situation with little way out. Your wife is being pragmatic. You do not share finances, so she is asking you to equally share in the financial hit that will come with taking maternity leave. She is communicating to you her needs and wants. She is protecting herself. She is also protecting her relationship with you and your future family, because without this type of communication, many couples end up in a resentful, sexless marriage due to the shit end of the stick women always get after childbirth. Opinion number 3 says, I find your financial arrangements rather strange, given that the two of you live together, own a house together, consider yourselves married, and are planning children together. Most couples in that situation, married or not, will have largely merged their finances, treating their incomes as a pool and all expenses as shared rather than split. I think it may be hard for you to maintain your clean arrangement of segregated income and assets and equally split expenses once a child is on the scene. Having a third body that you're both responsible for will really muddy cost allocations. Obviously, if you both like this system, do what works for you. But it strikes me that finances are already treated in a quite legalistic, transactional way within your relationship. I don't think that's something your wife has suddenly introduced. Since finances in your relationship are arranged this way, I think your wife's request is perfectly reasonable. You currently split all your joint costs 50/50. A child is a huge expense, and I would expect you to apply the same rule to costs related to the child. Your wife's loss of earnings from taking maternity leave is an opportunity cost of having the baby. $50K sounds like a reasonable estimate of 50% of the cost your wife will incur by being pregnant for your mutual benefit, based on what you've said. I know plenty of men that have been the sole provider and financially supported their wives while they were pregnant. None of them would have considered what they were doing to be paying their wives to have their children. They would have called it supporting their family. If you're going to have a child, I think that's the outlook you need to adopt. I don't think what your wife is suggesting is fundamentally different. A cash transfer is only necessary for your instance because your finances are kept so rigidly separate. $50K is a lot of money, but it also isn't. It will be a drop in the ocean of money you'll eventually spend on your children. The payment plan is just a practical element of the arrangement. The weirdest thing to me is that your wife wants a formal legal contract drafted. Given that you are having a child together, I would hope there was enough trust in the relationship that she would expect you to be willing to honor any agreement made. As far as being concerned about your wife's behavior, try not to worry too much. Presenting this idea to you was probably quite daunting to your wife. She may have wanted to talk it through with her sister to see whether her sister felt it was reasonable. That would also explain why the conversation lapsed when you walked in. I don't think you need to read anything more into the situation at this stage. How about you guys? What do you think? Leave a comment and let's discuss down below. If you enjoyed it, maybe subscribe and leave a like. It will help my channel a lot and motivate me to make more for you. Thanks for listening and take care.